Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick and today guys we're jumping down into the world of Cardano's ADA, taking a look at what's been going on most recently, what might actually happen next in my opinion, and all of that kind of good stuff. As we get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, you know what to do. If you happen to be new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, and you will not miss another video or stream that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. And of course, don't forget to join us down in Discord. Links are in the description down below. We cover a lot more down in the Discord server than we do here on YouTube, okay? So let's get into it. Let's start talking about Cardano paired up with USDT on the hourly chart. Binance is the data source. Now we have a date for the 𝗲𝗄 hard fork. Is this going to be a sell the news event? Are we going to start to see a price kind of move up a little bit and gravitate towards the upper end of targets before we start to see a pullback, or are we actually just going to start to see a bit of a sell-off here? Let's actually dive down into the data of the charts to take a look at what's been going on. Following on from what we were talking about yesterday, we basically have ourselves this area of resistance. Okay, this resistance is actually reasonably broad. It actually kind of spans this area here. Let me just go ahead and move this little yellow box area just over to this side, and we'll just pull this one just down a fraction here to bring it back in line with what we've got on that side. Basically, what we've got is this area of resistance. It's approximately between these areas of 46.19 and 47.45. And basically, this is an area that we had up here. Previously was a big area of resistance. We also created a little bit of resistance on this lower band just down here as well. So you can see we're kind of really fighting our way, trying to get our way through this gap and trying to turn it into a support level so that we can kind of move on forward. Okay, our original targets for this kind of move upwards was 49.56 to about 56.97. So, the question is here, can we turn this level of resistance into support that takes us up into our original kind of expectations around 49 to 56 cent? Okay, that's kind of what's going on. Now, obviously, taking a look at this from an Elliott wave theory point of view, we completed our fifth waves down low. So we have got the 5-wave structural move, bringing us down into our low range. We actually hit the higher end of this range. We didn't hit the lower end. It was just the higher range at about 42.63. And I think if I just get the wick on this one, we went down as low as 42.36. Okay. So we know that there's a 5-wave drop. Now, 5-wave drops are not usually on their own. We have the 3-wave move upwards, and then you move down another 5 waves, right? Our actual accumulation zones are down here between 28 and 34 cent. That hasn't changed. And there's of course a couple of wild cards with 22.23 and 15.46, but we'll talk about those at a later date if we were to move and gravitate down towards those prices. But right now the main concern is whether or not we're going to push through this resistance block or we're going to break on down from it. Okay, so with obviously the 𝗲𝗄 hard fork confirming a date, that does kind of mean that people could be working towards a target. Okay, there's a point where we might start to see some selling pressure, as usually a lot of this is hyped up beforehand. At least that's the narrative that it gets spilled out there. I don't think that's necessarily the case, but we do look at the kind of hard fork events that Cardano have done, and historically speaking, they've usually been in pretty bearish times, and so the kind of theory of sell the news kind of had cropped up a fair bit. But I think it's a bit unfair to say that it's always a Cardano sell the news event. I do think actually it's just bearish times. So let's take a look at this, right? We have our ascending triangular wedge. This is basically a continuation pattern. Sometimes these are bullish, sometimes they're not. We speak about this all the time, specifically with the higher lows and the higher highs and all of these things here. And again, I'll just draw these on so you can kind of get a rough idea. Basically, these kind of things, they usually end is more bearish than bullish. So we should be aware that, there's this ascending triangular wedge is actually just a continuation pattern. And of course, we'll be continuing the trend that led into it. And the trend is our 5 waves trend structured down. Okay, so when we come out of this ascending triangle, it's down, which is the direction that we're going. The only question is, are we going to make it to our 49 to 56 cent range first? Okay. So let's take a look at our momentum. Okay, so straight off the bat here, we can obviously take a look at the wave counts if we want. I think we're actually pretty much aligned to where our 3-wave count would be. Let me just check and move this over. Yeah, we're a little bit short, just ever so fractionally though. Right there is 47.91 is our 1-to-1 ratio with our 3-wave structure. So we'd look at this as an A, B, and C, or more WXY to be more exact, but I'll just throw the ABC on there to make it easier for you guys. But basically here you have a 3-wave structure, right? A 3-wave structure is the minimum expectation, is what our expectation is really, of a 5-wave drop. 5 down, 3 up, right? Now, this could be a micro movement. Okay, we could, and let's think bullishly here, right? Okay, if we have our bull hats on, we'd have this as an A wave. We'll collapse down out of our triangle into a B wave, and then we move up into a C wave, and then we can't enter into our typical retracement zones up here. Okay, the 50% retracement at 49.56. Okay, that's the most bullish. The most bearish scenario, of course, is that we just break on down and we just go down into another 5-wave drop. Okay, so we understand that there's a 3-wave structure here. This could just be an A wave, or it could just be the completed structure done. But we are up against a resistance. We've completed an Elliott wave 3-wave structural completion, and for the most part, we take a look at it again, we can kind of see we have also completed that in there as well. So nothing unusual about that. We're kind of reaching exhaustion for Cardano. Now we bring up our stochastic RSI, our momentum indicator, just checking to see whether or not we are looking bullish or bearish right now. Okay, so our hourly stochastic RSI, basically it's super sensitive to price movements, so it's able to pick up on whether things are going to be flipping around a little bit easier than things like MACD, which are lagging indicators. And the RSI is great for a trend, but not so good when you're not in a trend. So the RSI or stochastic RSI, it's actually really, really good for this. So we look like we have to pull back down on the hourly. So expect some rejection here. Now on a micro count, this could be A, B, and just pulling us down a little bit into C, right? We can see that there. But if we come up into our 4-hourly, this is where we really start to think about what's going on in this upper area here, this area of resistance, right? So with this area of resistance on the 4-hourly chart, we are, of course, not only are we trying to get through this area of resistance, we've also kind of run out of momentum. We're up in this overbought area now on the stochastic RSI on the 4-hourly chart. So this is giving us a high understanding, or the highest probability, that we actually break down from here, and maybe we're going to start to move on down quite a bit. Not only do we have the 3-wave structures complete, but we could also now be starting to look at that kind of breakdown. It could be 5 waves, it could be 3 waves. We don't know what that looks like just yet, but definitely does look like we are going to see some selling pressure here. Okay, now the 8-hour, again, very similar story. Not only are we inside this ascending triangular wedge here, this continuation pattern, 3 waves completed, we are also up in the overbought. So our 4-hour and our 8-hour stochastic RSIs are telling us that we are overbought and should be expecting some kind of downward price pressure. Not that I can draw a straight line on this hourly. It's all wibbly wobbly. Okay, let's go over into the daily, and this is the most bearish, unfortunately, for Cardano. It's not that I want to be bearish on Cardano. I really like Cardano as a project, but let's be realistic about price movements, right? We're not going to necessarily FOMO into something at this point in time when the data doesn't suggest so. Okay, so long term, I'm a big bull for Cardano, and I really like everything fundamentally that they're doing. I think it's game changing for the world. But let's face it, the price action of ADA isn't exactly in a really strong position right now. Not only are we up against this upper area of resistance again, yesterday, as you can see here, we closed below this area. Okay, this is basically 46.58. I imagine that today we're going to close below this area as well, basically keeping this consistent area of resistance. We're up in the overbought on the daily, so we know what's going to happen here. We are likely to come on down. We are correcting our weekly. That's okay. We've got a little bit of green here, but we've got to come all the way down to the oversold area. So we are still looking at progressively towards the downside. The daily is pretty bearish, the 8-hourly is pretty bearish, the 4-hourly is pretty bearish. There's some volatility possibly on the hourly chart, but for the most part, I'm expecting some price action to take us to the downside, not to the upside. And this basically means that maybe we're just not going to hit our targets here at 49 to 56 cent. Guys, I'll let you come up with your own conclusions as to what you think is going on here for Cardano, but those are my thoughts. So if you have found it useful and informative, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, and don't forget, join us down in Discord. It's a fantastic community, and we talk crypto 24/7. Guys, until the next one, have a fantastic day.